Yo, 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 what it do, what it do? It's your boy Yellow the Poet. Today, I am here with Mr. Dr. Brian E. Man, oh my goodness. So far, let me tell you something. I read the profile and I was pretty happy and excited about the profile. And I tell you, on your picture, you kind of look like Louis Farrakhan. So,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't know if I heard that one before. Jay-Z sometimes or the Louis Farrakhan. Yeah, I'm not gonna complain. Gotta look like somebody, right? Oh my
yes,
God.
yes,
That's
it,
cool.
but Dr. Brian is definitely inspirational entrepreneur, author, and a coach, and we're definitely going to get more into what Dr. Brian does. We are happy to have you here on YTP Entertainment. Thank you so much for joining us, and please let the audience know what you got going on.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for having me on. I'm just excited to talk. Every opportunity I get is, I think God has just kind of said, okay, here's some things that I want you to do in your purpose, right?
Mhm.
And it's all the different things I've done in my life and trying to find what that purpose is. And I realize that my purpose is helping people become the person they need to be in order to do what God put them on this earth to do. And so now when I'm in it and you're in that zone and you're doing that thing every single day, it's a new adventure. It's like, man, I've been struggling, trying to figure out what this is going to be. Hey, do you want me to be a teacher? Do you want me to be a speaker? What is it you want me to do? And then about a year ago, I go to this. Probably about right around a year ago, I go to this event. It's called the Trust Edge. And it's
Mhm.
all about leading with trust and how important trust is. And if we can figure out how to trust each other, life is a different world. Well, there's 400 people in the room. There's about 30 people of color in the room. I'm going, why is this information not in our community? How is that not hitting this community? When I think of Black men, especially, I'm like, how much trust do we have not only in each other against the rest of the communities, the rest of the world, in ourselves? And say, okay, so why are we not the biggest part of this group? Came back, started working with some of my mentors and stuff, and they're like, this is it. This is so I have started a program called Journey to Freedom, which is basically helping Black men become the person that they need to be, whether it's a coaching program, speaking program, podcast program. I've written a couple books this year. So I wrote a book called There Is No Tiger, which is about overcoming overthinking and controlling anxiety, which is all about that thing that goes on in our mind that is always negative and never positive. So I wrote a book about that. And then I got done with that book and I go, I don't need it. I don't have another book in me. And then all of a sudden, about 3 weeks later, I had the decision formula. So now I wrote a book called The Decision Formula: 5 Easy Steps to Making Decisions That'll Change Your Life, and that'll be out next month. And I'm like, okay, I'm done writing books. Then another idea came to my mind this about 2 weeks ago. So I don't know. I don't know what God's doing. I just know that I'm in a place right now where my kids are grown. I have 8 children and I have 16 grandkids, and so those kids are just amazing. My oldest son is working for Pixar, so he'll never leave Northern California and loving. I mean, we get to go to Disneyland for free and all this wonderful stuff that we get to do as a result. And I got a daughter who's a teacher and another one who's working at Pottery. I mean, just uh, I don't know if it's entertaining or just talk about my life and what I can possibly do to help other folks is kind of where I want to be. So that's what's
Listen,
happening right
yes.
now.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I guarantee you there's nothing wrong with that. And I love that, you said that you started was it a group that's Journey to
Journey to
Freedom.
freedom. Journey to freedom. Yeah.
So what is the group about? What is the main focus on Journey to
So
Freedom?
yeah. So well, thank you for asking too, because Journey to Freedom is literally when I started thinking about a lot of Black men that are out there that are saying, I kind of feel stuck. Not necessarily our youth, because our youth has a lot of programs and they got a lot of things. Not that they don't need mentorship and help, but we go through those things and then we get to like 24, 25 years old. We get through college, or we start working, and then we say, now what? Right. And then you end up, and so you start hanging out with this group of friends and you go, I'd really like to move forward, but I'm kind of stuck with this group of friends, and we're all around the same income. We're all around the same things that we do. Is this my life? We start talking about, and there's nothing wrong with, going to the barbershop and talking about all the athletes in the world, all the entertainers in the world, all the actors in the world. But none of those folks know me. None of those folks have, interest in my life, and what I was starting to find is sometimes those folks know more statistics about Patrick Mahomes or Denzel Washington, or Jay-Z, now P. Diddy these days, right? More statistics about them than you know about your kids.
Yeah.
So oh, my kid did, then you wait a minute. There's something that's backwards. It's kind of messed up. What do we need to do to get you into that zone? And so Journey to Freedom came from, okay, this is where we're at. People love to move forward. People love to get where they're going to go, and creating groups that are, so if you're the smartest person in the group of people you're with, you're in the wrong group, right? So you need to evolve into another group. You need to evolve, and so I'm literally taking a group of 14 men to Alabama the last week in January. And so not only are we going to go through their story, and I have a guy named Jeff Campbell who's doing what we call the Emancipation Theater and really talking about, here's where you are, here's where you're at. We're going to say, this is where you come from. And so we're going to start out in Birmingham. We're going to do a civil rights tour that's through there. We have a lady who was part of the children's march stuff with the fire hoses and all that, who was there during the time. She's going to talk to us. And then we're going to spend some time at one of the places at University of Alabama. They have a couple of satellites there and really talk about story. Then the next day we're going to go to Selma, and we're going to go to the Pettus Bridge. And so we're going to walk for where Dr. MLK walked from there, walk over the bridge, kind of talk about what Bloody Sunday was all about. This is your history. This is the shoulders of giants that were able to do, some of the things that we're going to do. And then the next day we're going to kind of go down that road from Selma to Montgomery, and we're going to go to the Brian Stevenson Museum, which is the Equal Justice Museum, where he talks about the African-American slave trade. And there's the, oh my gosh, the segregation and the mass incarceration, and then there's lynching. And last year when I was there, I spent 6 hours in the museum and couldn't even, we were talking about impact, and then say, okay, now we've done this. You kind of know where you come from. Now we're going to come back. Now I've had you for 4 days, right? So you didn't have the chance to do all these other things. We kind of talked about, now we're going to come back and create some transformational groups in the community. So
Cool.
that's the plan of Journey to Freedom. And so out of that came the podcast, where I'm interviewing 100 Black men that are successful this year. Which is, when I think about success isn't the amount of money you have necessarily. I'm not saying you can't be successful with money. It's about who
Right.
you are to the community that you serve. Oh my gosh, I had no idea there was this many super sharp, incredible Black men who are doing stuff, that are incredible fathers. That has been a theme throughout all the podcasts, is what it means. It's super important for your kids to have a dad. Every child should have a father. Every child should have, a person. For us fathers, it's super important to be a father, to be able
Yeah.
to protect, to be able to provide. In fact, all right, be that person. And so many of us have missed it because, even the guy I was talking to today, who started 100 Fathers Inc. or something like that, and speaks all around the country. He was talking to me today how important it is to be that father, and to, there's so many people that call into their establishment right now and say, well, the mom will, and how important it is to go back and redo that and make sure that that's happening. And so, so that's part of it. The other theme is seeing somebody who looks like me who's doing it. I told you, before we talked about an engineer that I interviewed, right?
Yeah.
Part of I guess the Army Corps of Engineers, and so technical and analytical, and has made his life as part of an engineer. I talked to a CPA who said I had a chance to be in the top 8, CPA firms, and I turned it down to start my own so I could serve my community. And 50 years later, he's the #1 CPA in the Charlotte area in North Carolina. I mean, just these guys. I talked to a guy, Tanksley, who's in Texas, and started an air conditioning company, and he's on that cusp of being a billionaire right now. And so you just start going, wow, where and their love for doing what they need to do in the community has
That's
just been phenomenal. So that's the journey to freedom. It's going to continue. I said I was only going to do 100 interviews this year in 2024, but I have a lineup of many more men that you're going to come on my show as well. But a line of men that are just waiting, and I'm like, I can't stop. This is going to have to go into 2025 and hopefully beyond. So
no doubt, no choice, no choice. I
yes,
mean,
no choice, no choice.
when you think
Exactly.
about the journey that has been set forth for you, there's no such thing as I'm gonna have.
Mhm. Yep,
Kind of
exactly.
hard.
I'm getting ready to turn 60 years old in March. Yeah. And I'm going to continue to go maybe till I'm 72, 73, 74. I don't have no plans on retiring. I mean, what is that? What is retirement? Retirement is you die, right? People retire and then 6 months later you're going to their funeral. So, Black is 85 and still running in track meets. So I am going to be around and do what it do, like you said.
Yeah, you got to make it do what it do, no doubt. Because if you decide to change it, who's to say what path you're gonna go on next if you haven't finished the path that you started? Because if you never finish, then that's always going to be an issue. We always have to finish what we started. We, as Black men, first off, we've always historically, a lot of the Black men from our past have paved an unwanted path for us
Mhm.
where we never finish anything, and we don't want to lead on into the future and have our children and grandchildren and our ancestral tree going into a path of more Black men not finishing what they start. We don't want that. Somebody got to break the chain.
Absolutely. And I do a mindset daily, so I send out a 1 or 2 minute message every single day. And I started about 3 years ago, not quite 3 years ago. So I said I was going to go for 30 days, and my whole purpose was so I could get good at me speaking in front of a camera and microphone and internet and all that kind of stuff. I said I'll do it for 30 days. Then 30 days, I said, oh, I'm done. I can do it for 90 days. Did it for 90 days. I said, well, I can do this for a year. And so now I'm saying I can do it for 1,000 straight days without missing a day. And so that happens on December 14th. I'll be 1,000 days. And then I'm like, well, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. And so just yesterday, I was talking about the future, and I said, does our past define our future? And the realization is no, it doesn't, because there's all kinds of things that we can do to change what it is. But our future does predict our reality. Our future does become our reality, because our reality, if we have a vision and a goal and what we want to happen in the future, the decisions that we make today
Yep,
impact what our future is going to be. And
yep,
so if we can live in that, and we can live in that future, and that creates our reality now, forget about all this stuff. I mean, we need to know what happened in the past, but the
true.
past isn't going to define us. It can't define us, because we have so many opportunities. We have so many ways that we can move forward, that if we let the past define us, and I think that's been where a lot of us have fallen short, is we
Mm.
say, well, because of this, this, and this, and this. And that's not the reason.
No,
Because my great grandfather was a slave, now I'm not able to do the things. We live in a world of opportunity right now where we don't need permission, right? We
yeah,
don't need permission to be able to move forward, where in the past they did. They
yeah,
did need permission to be able to do, whether it was slavery they needed position, or it was buying a house in the 70s where there was redlining and they said you need a permission to live in this neighborhood.
yes,
That stuff isn't our reality anymore. And if we let that define who we are, then we miss what can happen in our future.
yeah.
It's,
One of
yeah,
the
it
things
gets so
I'm glad you spoke on that, because one of the things that a lot of our people don't know is in back in the 30s, 40s, all the way up into like the mid 60s, they used to paint the window panes, the outside of the window pane, to dictate what nationality of people lived in that neighborhood. Yeah.
wow. Yeah. There,
And
there, there's so many crazy things that happened in our past.
yeah,
Deeds that had, you may not sell this house to a Negro. That
yeah,
was literally as part of the deed on the house, and people adhered to it.
yep,
You know, Oh, yeah, there's just, so many of those barriers that, like you said, that the folks who came before us paid that price so
Yes,
that we can move forward. And now
yes.
we have some opportunities that are just insane right now to move
See,
forward.
one of the things that I teach people, because I also do relationship coaching. So one of the things that I teach people is it's okay to look back, but don't step back. You
Ooh,
know,
I like that. Yeah. Well, I'm writing that one down. I
because
love it.
I mean, because when
Yes.
you look back, you're reflecting on things that you've learned from the past, and you taking what you learned from the past and applying only some of what you learned from the past and innovating those steps going forward. But when you step back, you're taking 10 steps back, and
Mhm.
you are just living in an era that has nothing to do with who you are today. Nothing to do with that. But if you force that and make that who you are today, then you'll never be today. You will always be yesterday.
And you can't be, right? Like, we can't even live in the present because there is no present. If you think about it time wise, as soon as
Yeah.
I've said that, it's in the past, right?
Yes.
And then I'm in the future. So it's so hard. And you start thinking, if I see somebody who's sad or depressed or not able to get things done, most of the time, I say 99% of the time, it's a vision problem
Yeah.
because they can't see back into to what could happen.
Mhm.
They can only step back, as you just said,
Yeah.
into what already did happen, and then they can't change that, right? You can't
Yep.
change the past. The past
Yeah.
is it is. And so if you go back and try to change it, and you're always spending time trying to make it different, it affects everything that you got going in the future. Oh my gosh, this is good stuff. I'm glad I get to talk to you. Oh my Lord.
Same here, brother. Same here.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Yes.
I love history and I love learning about the things that happened in the past. The only thing about me is when it comes to the things in the past, is I just feel like it's a tool. And those tools that we arm ourselves with dictate the tools that we're going to arm ourselves with as far as innovating our lives and taking steps towards growth and moving
Mhm.
forward, because it's a beautiful thing to grow. But when you growing and moving forward, now you're taking the steps to make a difference in life. But when you just moving forward or you're just growing and that's it, a lot of times people keep that stuff to themselves, and that's not cool.
Yeah,
So
no.
who are we to keep all of these things to ourselves when we have peers, we have people looking up to us, we have people who we don't even know. Just for example, like you walk up to a perfect stranger and you asking them, are they okay? And they say something that sparks something that you just learned. Are you going to share that information or are you going to hold on to it? It's our jobs to share that information. So if
Absolutely.
we share that information like we're supposed to, not only did we just give that information and pass it on, but we also took a step to the next level in our lives. And we
Yeah.
have to keep that going. We have to.
Yeah. The way that our lives are great is if we serve others. And
Mm,
the only way to serve others is to share. We
yeah.
have to, if we've learned something that's impact our lives, and you're
Hmm.
so right, we try to hold it like as if there's this in economics, it's a study of resources and how much resources that there are. But the reality is, there isn't a limit to, it's not a finite amount of resources, because
Uh,
every time we run out of one resource, we as a people, as mentally and creatively, and as a body that's on this earth that God has given us the ability to do, find another resource that can take over the resource. So you think of like well blubber back in the 1800s, that's what lit all the lamps and their lights at night and everything. Well, the wells ran out, right? So what do we find? Dinosaur oil. And so now we're in this resource where there's dinosaur oil and they say it's going to run out. So we're finding solar and sun and wind and everything else. And so the same thing in our lives, if I look at you and say, well, if you have then it must mean I can't have. Then I have a lack mentality. I have a mentality that says there's not enough for both of us. And I got to live in a world that there's abundance because I know there's enough for both of us. I'm not competing with you. I'm trying to take you with me to whatever the best places that both of us can be because we're not the same people, right? We don't have the same experiences. We can't interact with the same person. A person that I may be coaching, like, hey, I'm struggling with you. Hey, Yoli, this guy's going to be the guy that's going to help you because if my goal is to serve you and help you become the best you can possibly be, I might not be that person that's for you, but
Yeah.
somebody else will. And if I'm willing to share and say, hey, wait a minute, hey, this is all of us moving together. Those resources, there's not a lack of resources. There's not a finite amount. How do people keep becoming billionaires if there's only so much money in the world, right?
Fact. Fact.
There's so much of everything and so much resources. We have this lack mentality. And it's just, as I'll move forward just a little bit on it, is, when I wrote the book, There Is No Tiger.
Mhm.
And the reason that I wrote the book was for this reason, because it's about overthinking and overcoming anxiety. And so this whole mentality of lack, and we spend our time in our mind overthinking about things that could possibly happen. I said
Yeah.
talk about the future, but I didn't say like ruminate on what could possibly happen in every situation. Like, oh, let's say that, my phone dies and now my kid can't call. I start thinking, well, my kid can't call me. And if my kid can't call me, I'm in the middle of nowhere. And then they think that I don't love them anymore. And then now that they get onto drugs and they got onto drugs and now I have to go to rehab. And then when I go to rehab, they're in the middle of the hospital and then they're not going to make it. And now I got to spend, hours and hours in the hospital. I mean, people go down that path of thinking in their mind that, oh my gosh, this could possibly happen. And what's really unique about the overthinking thing is it's just a movie reel we play in our mind, and it's always about negative. You
Yeah.
never play that reel that says, oh man, I can't, my wife's going to come home and she's going to love me so much and she just loves me more than ever I could ever, and I'm the happiest man in the world, and I'm going to overthink on that for the rest of the week.
Yes.
No, we're going to overthink on, all the possibilities of things that'll never happen, to the point we try to control 5 or 6 different situations that never have happened, won't happen. It's almost impossible to happen. And so the book is just based on, okay, these are stories from my life where I did some overthinking, and these are things that you can do about it. Exercises when you catch yourself overthinking, you catch yourself going, wait a minute, that's not going to happen. So why
Yeah.
am I trying to do all these things? I'm going to move my bank accounts around because I think that maybe somebody's going to, take my card and you're going to do all these things. And you're like, oh my God, you spend more time in your day instead of concentrating on things that could happen, that
Yeah.
are going to happen.
That's
Love your
true.
wife more, right? Love your kids more. That can happen, and that's a great thing.
I'm gonna tell you something, and it's funny too because one day I was standing at the bus stop. This was before I even got into my podcast and everything. I'm standing at the bus stop, and there was this young lady there, and she was just. I would walk up to the bus stop, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And that's all I said. And she's like, "I'm doing fine. How are you doing?" I said, "I'm great. Every day is a good day for me." And she just started going into her life story, and all of the pessimistic points of views that she would spit out. Excuse me. So I asked her, I stopped and I was just listening to her. And she was like, "Thank you for listening to me." She's like, "What did you think about all that?" I said, "I just have one question. Can you count all of the positive things that you could have gotten out of that?" And she stopped and she looked at me like, "What?" "Oh, I was just saying, can you count all that?" She was like, "No, I heard what you said, but why that?" I say, "Well, before I answer why, how about we just count all the positive things you can get out of that?" And she was like, "Well, I guess I could got this, that, and the third." And then she counted at least 6 or 7 things. And then the why was, I say, so I'll answer your why now. Why worry about all those other things when you have so many positive things to worry about?
Mm, that's awesome. That's great.
She was like, nobody's ever done that to me before. She's like, thank you, thank you. And then she gave me a hug and we got on the bus and I never seen her again.
Man, what an impact you made on her life that day to start thinking about possibilities instead of living in that past that we were talking about, right? Because everything that she was sharing with you was in the past. Nothing she could do about it, nothing she could control,
She
you
was
know.
mostly she shared some things from the past, but she was also in that realm of life where you say, well, but if I do this, then this may happen, then that can happen, then that'll trigger this to happen. And when she was saying all those things, I was just sitting there thinking to myself, I already know what I'm going to ask you, and
Mhm,
I can pretty much figure out what the answer is going to be. So let me just go ahead and ask you.
mhm.
And she was flabbergasted as to how simple I made all of her whole story become.
Yeah, because it is. It's all those things, like you said. Why are you worrying about stuff that
Mhm.
it's probably never going to happen? And you why don't you worry about all the good things that could happen? And then we have that thing in our mind called the reticular activator. That's that thing when you buy a blue Honda that you never saw a blue Honda on the road before, but now all of a sudden you see a million blue Hondas all over the road every time you're going, right? And
They were
so
there.
our minds are that way. They will find what you're mostly speaking about, what you're talking about, what you're ruminating about that could possibly go wrong. Now your mind is focused on how to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a
Which is
good It was fun. It was literally fun to see her reaction to that. And I had one guy now this day you can probably say I was just being a butthole, but it is what it is. There's one guy I was standing at the bus stop and he comes up to the bus stop after me and he was like, oh, you waiting on the bus too, huh? I was like,
hello.
I said, no, I'm just waiting on my ride.
It just happens to be a bus, right? I love it. Oh my gosh. Oh
So
my gosh.
when
Yeah.
the bus came and I gets on the bus before him, he's like, hey, I thought you was waiting on my ride. I said, yeah, this is my ride.
Am I right? Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's great. And when you think about all the things that we go through life that we worry about, and all the things that allow us and stop us from achieving greatness, right? And we think about what does it mean to be great? It means that first I'm serving people and I'm serving others, and then it's I'm doing something in life that moves the needle forward instead of backwards. And
Yeah,
so if I get up in the morning and I say, what am I going to do to move my needle forward today? And
right.
then that's what you work on. And those are your goals and your dreams and the things that you do.
Mhm.
Then then life starts taking off. And people will be amazed at just those little things of just
Yes.
that's the attitude when you
Yeah.
wake up. I'm thankful that I woke up. I've got an attitude of gratitude. And what can I do to move the needle today?
Yep. I just look at it like this. How can I be my best self? Because one of the things that I talked to the to the gentleman about, because a lot of females, they're already doing it, but if I find a female that's not doing it, then I'll bring it up to her as well. And that's about self-preservation. Because one of the laws of nature, one of the first laws of nature is self-preservation. You have to know who you are, know what you are, know how you are, know your inner workings and your outer workings in order to understand where you're going and what your purpose is in life. So if you take the time out to do these things, you'll be surprised at what you learn about yourself versus the things that people have been teaching you and telling you that you had to do, need to do, should do, and all this stuff while you were growing up. You'll be surprised at what you learn totally against the grain of everything that someone else has told you what you should and should not be. And people look at me like, what? Are you serious? And I told them, I said, you'd be surprised that just learning a lot about oneself, you'll be on an emotional roller coaster for a little while until you really start to get more focused and more in tune with what you're actually doing here. Because self-preservation is a powerful tool. It's very powerful, but you got to be willing to go through it.
Yeah, and I think that's where we live in this age where we want everything right now. We don't want to improve who we are, realizing that I'm not the person that I need to be in order to do the thing that whatever it is that I'm trying to do. Because if I was, I would already be doing it. Right. And so, what is the stage that I now have to go through in order to become that person? And once I realize these are some steps that I'm going to take, I have to improve my mind. If I were to try to be in a room with, let's say, one of these billionaires right now, what am I going to have a conversation about? I have no idea what it's even like to be a multimillionaire, right? So if I'm not there yet, how am I going to talk about being a billionaire? And yet, I'm not saying we can't start the conversation, but I haven't become that person yet. That can glean and say, "Oh, coach me right now." He doesn't have time to coach me right now. Elon Musk can't coach me right now because I'm not ready for Elon Musk to coach me. But there are other people who can that can help me get to where I need to be. And that's where, like you said, that self-preservation, first now knowing who I am, and then really saying, okay, now what daily decisions do I need to make that are going to help me move forward? Like when I think about my next book, the one that's coming out, it's called The Decision Formula. And in the first part of the book, we really talk about there are decisions that you make. Some of those decisions are reversible, and some of those decisions are not, or irreversible. But about 99% of the decisions you're going to make are reversible. Like if somebody, irreversible, here's an example of reversible. You go to the doctor, they say, we got to amputate your leg. You're going to have to think about that because your leg's not going to grow back. It's just not. Not in this lifetime. You can get a prosthetic, but you have to think about that. That's an irreversible decision. Everything else, hey, I need to move to Minnesota because there's a job opportunity that's going to allow me to do the things I'm going to do. Well, I can't do that. Why? Well, it's reversible, right? If you go to Minnesota, you don't like it, come back. Wherever are you coming back from, right? Almost all your decisions are reversible. And so you don't have to be 100% certain to take action and do something. You got to be like 51 or 52% certain to be able to take action and do something. And so once you get there, now what is the what and the why? Why am I doing this decision and how is it going to impact others or how is it going to impact my family? Because part of that decision now is do I have the disciplines to do it? Like I want to be a world-class swimmer, right?
Yeah.
But I only want to go to the pool once a week. Those two things don't go together. You got to spend 4 or 5 hours every day at the pool. And then you have to have some talent. Right. And so, you think about, do I have those disciplines to be able to do it? And then the other part is what's the cost?
Yes.
If I'm trying to be a great dad, this might not be the right time to leave my family and move to Europe to pursue a dream of mine of being, or say I want to sail boats, right? Well, my family can't come with me. Well, you might want to wait till your kids are out of high school before you decide to go sail boats around the country because the cost is too great for your family for you to be able to do it. And so there's a formula that I have in there and adding up all those costs of making a decision. It used to be, the Ben Franklin T. You put pros on one side, cons on the other side. You add up the pros, then you add up the cons. But we don't think through, do I even have the disciplines to do this thing that I'm going to do? Like for us doing a podcast, right? So I got to be willing and committed to doing several podcasts before I'm going to be good at it, right? Because the first ones that I'm going to do are probably going to suck because I haven't been doing it. I don't know how to do it. If I haven't been on radio or I haven't done other things, and that's what I knew when I started doing my daily posts. Well, those daily posts are terrible. They're not good. I can get on now and do a really good one, but those first ones, we need to put those in that can that nobody can ever see again. I know it's out on the internet forever. There was a twinkle, and then like my wife will lie to me. She's like, "Oh, that was so good, honey." Then I watch it back and like, you just lied. I appreciate it because you love me, but this isn't good at all. I'm all over the place. I'm not even talking about something coherent here. Even
Yeah,
though I had a script and I was reading it, or it talked real slow or it talked real fast. I mean, they're going to be. So I have to be willing to put in those hours of work and
yes,
that discipline to do good. If I'm going to make the decision to do it, go do it right.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
and
you know,
yes. And you have to be willing to criticize yourself, which you just showed that. You have to be willing to criticize yourself in order to make sure that you're doing things the way that it's supposed to be done. I mean, I love that because one of the things that we have to be careful though when we are criticizing ourselves, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this, is don't be too critical of oneself because it'll make you not put your work out there. You know what I'm saying? Then you'd be too afraid to put your work out there because you're so critical of it. You're automatically assuming that everybody else is going to be just as critical when not realizing that this may have been one of your best works. So now you're gonna, mess yourself up not putting it out there when you could have put this out there and everybody would have just learned so much from it that the learning curve would have turned into a big old gigantic pool of just straight learning.
Oh my gosh. Well, the comparison trap, right? So we watch people on Facebook and on Twitter, and they seem well polished, and they're talking about all the positive things and things that went well in their life. Realize that's what they're talking about, the best part of their life. They're not telling you about some will, and then you turn them off. But most people aren't going to tell you what happened the 5 days before that something good that happened, right? And so
Right.
now we compare ourselves as if post after post after post. Oh man, this person's living their best life. They got it together, because they saw 10 days of posts. Well, that took like 365 days to get to 10 days of good posts that you saw. And we spend so much time just comparing ourselves to other folks. And people, I promise you, are not thinking about you. We'll go into a room and think everybody's looking at me. Everybody's, what did they say? What do they think about what I'm wearing? And I gotta go back and change because they're worried about what I'm wearing. They're worried about what they're wearing. They're not thinking about you. They're more worried about what's going on in their life and how you're thinking about them more than they ever thinking about you. And so, like you said, you got to go out there and do it. Just realize anything we're doing is worth doing badly first, right? And so you're not going to be good until you've done the reps. And in order to do the reps, you got to do the thing. You're not just going to wake up on top. You know, I can imagine, I know like Justin Bieber was this big YouTube sensation, but I got to imagine that even though he had lots of talent, that his first few posts weren't very good, that
No.
he wasn't very good. And you can't tell me that Denzel's first plays or the first time he was acting, they were as good as the actor that he is today.
He
There's
said
no way.
he said that in the interview himself. Like my first works. I hope nobody ever sees that.
Yeah.
He
Well, you think
said,
of Tyler Perry, right? Tyler Perry and all the things that he went through in Medea and everything else that he's done to be able to create what he's created now, you have to go through failure. Failure is a part of the process of being great. And if
"Yeah,
you're not willing to fail, then you don't get to be great. I'm sorry. I mean, I hate to tell it to you that way, but if you, my friend, are not willing to fail, if you're not willing to go, if all you're going to do is criticize how you're doing it, you can't get better. And here's the other thing that I would tell you. You can tell me your family. Sometimes you just have to let them go for a little bit
yeah,
because they will stop you and be negative and tell you you can't and tell you, oh, you ain't gonna be able to do this before. Don't even let them know. That's one of the stories I have in my book is saying, you don't get to tell your family what you're doing right now. I did a thing for a company where I gave them 21 days after they went to the meeting. Okay, here's what you're going to do for the 21 days after you got excited about what you're doing. The first thing you're not going to do is tell your family. We're going to go to 10, 15 days of you creating this discipline before you start telling them because they will steal your dream in a minute. Why? Because then they have to look at you and say, I could have gone with you, or I could have done it with you. Or if you succeed, then they have to look in their own mirror and go, well, if he did it, why couldn't I do it? It's easy to say that about somebody you don't know, But
Yeah.
somebody who's your relative that just made successful and is doing really good, and you go and he asked you to go with him, and you said, "No, you ain't gonna do it." Now you sitting at home watching television with your cornflakes and wishing you was with him, on the yacht or whatever he's on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, I can attest to that from an physical sense because I tell you, when I first started doing my poetry and I started putting it on social media, my family support was zero.
Wow.
Complete zero. And it was sad that so many other people were making comments, giving likes. Hey, can you do a poem about such and such? Can you do this? Can you do? And no problem. I was able to do a poem about anything that they asked me to do a poem about, no problem. But my own family supporting, not happening. I got a cousin who jumped into radio. And I told him all I wanted you to do was just we follow each other. That's it.
Mhm.
I followed him. He was like, cool, man, let's do it. Let's make it happen. He's like, you follow me and I'm gonna follow you back. I followed him. I left it up there for like 2 weeks. He never followed me back. So I unfollowed him and kept it moving. And it's
Gotcha.
like later on, everybody else start looking at me. They're like, man, we've been seeing all these little pop-ups and this, that, and the seeing this and seeing it, and everything's saying yellow, 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 yellow the poet, yellow, yellow, yellow the poet. And I'm like, okay. And what else do you want me to say? So, but now it's like, well, hey, cuz if you ever want me to get on your podcast, man, just let me know I could jump. I was like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. I don't need you to jump on my podcast now that my podcast is finally getting attention from other countries,
Yeah.
other cities, other states, other people outside of my family. I don't need you to jump on my podcast now. I'm perfectly fine without you. No problem. But it's sad that we have to get to this point before the people that you love the most
Mhm.
actually show any form of support. And I had one friend who's was so bad that even his own children, his own wife was not supporting him. And that story that you talked about, when I first started doing my poetry publicly, my ex-wife, she was like, "Oh, you're not gonna make it doing that. That ain't don't nobody make it doing poetry." I was like, so you mean to tell me that Edgar Allan Poe didn't make it doing his poetry? You mean to tell me that Maya Angelou didn't make it doing her poetry? You mean to tell me that all these different famous poets
Mhm.
make it doing their poetry, but yet they were in their own realm of success? So I can't make it too. But now my stats, if you look at my stats, you're looking at more than 8 million. It's like 8.1 million people who watch and view all of my social medias all together. But I can't make it. I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying, so in the interest of fairness, before people start to say what you can't do, you have to be willing not only to fail, but also be willing to put your work out there to see if it's going to fail. Because who's to say it's going to fail? Who's to say that?
Just your relatives.
Right? Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
But you
Yeah.
have to speak
Yeah.
for itself. You have to be willing to be steadfast and consistently move forward, irregardless of what anybody else has to say about you. You have to be willing to do that. Listen, yeah, I heard you. All right, can we keep moving now? I'll talk to you another time. Keep it moving. Don't even allow that to be to rent space in your head. Because if they're not paying for that space in your head, they don't need to be there.
Exactly. Get out of my head. And yeah, it's amazing. And they're the first ones when you go someplace that they want to be at. Oh, can you get me in? Can you get me in? I know you're speaking that, I'd love to be in there with you. Wait a minute. Do you remember? Remember? And one of the things that you said is so, so important is consistency. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. You got to
Yeah.
be consistent over time and
Yes.
continue to be consistent. That
Yes.
is not being consistent is the enemy. You can't just keep switching to something else. All that, I tried it for a week and then I'm trying something else and then I'm trying something else. And, and the internet will lure you, right? Because everybody's got the next greatest thing that if you just do this, you're going to be successful and you follow all these little
Yep.
be
Yep.
consistent at something, show that you can be consistent,
Yep.
and you will make it.
That's what come, no matter what. No matter what.
Yes.
So I got one other thing for you that I'm really curious about.
Okay.
You talked about what are some of the most common barriers that people face. I'm curious, what have you learned about that? What are some of the most common barriers that people face in their journeys?
One is the barrier of consistency. The one is the barrier of overthinking is a big one. The other that I'm finding is people just believe that they're not enough.
Mhm.
They believe that I'm not capable, I'm not enough to do this, and it stops them dead in their tracks. Instead of going and say, I'm going to learn, I'm going to go, because we have this belief that we have to have all of our ducks in the row
Yeah.
before we can go do the thing, instead of working through it as if it's a progression that we continue to progress to get something. And so the biggest barrier is ourselves just saying, I'm not enough. I can't do this. That person over there is so much better than me because they're seeing the finished product. They're
Mhm.
not seeing what that person went through to get there. They don't see how many shots Michael Jordan took
Yeah.
with a ton of talent, that he was willing to be there night after night, throwing free throws in and doing all those things that he added the talent, right? The other barrier is that the opportunity, right? We don't see the opportunities, right? They say, well, that person was lucky. No, because when preparedness and opportunity come together, that's what luck is, right? That's how they got luck because they were there at the right time. And then I said the other barrier that people have why they don't become successful is they don't get around people, their
Mm.
mentors and the other people that are in their lives that can help move it forward. They stay with the crowd who's not doing anything and they ruminate and they have all these conversations with their could you please go have a conversation with somebody who's done it, or somebody who can take you to the next level, or somebody who's going to be behind you instead of all five of you sitting there talking about what you can't do? Yeah,
Yes.
because it blows my mind. We don't take advantage of other people.
Mhm.
We don't. And what's so amazing is that person would never talk to me. Like I said, for my podcast, I've been working with trying to have Myron Golden be on my podcast. And I start thinking about, okay, he is a person that is in a room that I want to be in, that I want to have conversations with. And
Yes.
so I'm not going to wait for Myron to come talk to Brian because Myron's already talking to somebody else, right? Brian's going to show up where Myron's at and
Yes.
spend time with him, get to know him, be there, and because if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But so I need to get in rooms that I can get a lot smarter. I want to be the lowest person on the totem pole in some of my rooms. Like, hey, just let me be a fly on this wall.
Exactly.
Because if I can, and then I can start taking notes, and I can read, and then I can go do the thing and come back, go do the thing and come back, go do the thing and come back, and retool every single time.
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
those are some of the barriers that I say. Barriers are not. You talk about systems, and you talk about has this country been the best place for Black men in the last 400 years? Absolutely not. And I'm not going to pretend it's not hard. I'm not going to pretend that we all don't face some of the things that we face. And sometimes we're going to have to work a little bit harder to get the thing done. But
Yes.
those things, those are your contributing factors. Those are the things that I can't control. I
Hmm.
can't control. This is where I was born. This is the lot that I've been given. I got determining factors inside of me that can become what they call outliers, where I
Yeah.
can change the narrative on what somebody thinks my life's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's another one of the barriers is I guess I have to be what they told me I'm going to be.
Yes.
And now that you got too many examples of people who, um, we had a black president, at one point. We almost had another lady who was, getting ready to, a black woman almost be president. I mean, you can't tell me, I mean, that's just, if you want to be in leadership, but you name something, maybe yachting or something. I don't know that we're probably still there at some point, there's some things we probably don't want to do, that we're capable, but I don't know if there's anything on this planet that we're not capable if this is what we really want to do. We got astronauts going up to the moon, right? I mean, there's nothing that says, well, I didn't have enough education when I was growing up. Okay, I have a special ed kid, right? I got a doctorate, because technology is one of those equalizers, right? I have the ability to talk into a computer and it does all the spelling and writing for me as I'm able to communicate, right? If I can get really good at communicating, then I don't have to be able to go back to English class or go back to math class. What do I need to do with trigonometry? I'll just be able to say the word, right? There's not a time in the last 5 years where I've had to do a trigonomic equation. Not once. Now I know
Exactly.
somebody has to, but I'm not trying to make a rocket land in the ocean or on the land instead of the ocean, right? I'm just trying to go out and help people. I don't need, yeah. So I hope that helps with the barriers. I mean, I could probably give you some more, but yeah.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, and I like those points. There's definitely some key points. Then I hope that the people will actually pay attention to because this is something. This is impactful. We went over a lot, different barriers, different versions of success, um, self-preservation, setting goals, ways to reach them. We went over a lot of stuff, and it's a blessing to even be able to go through all these things and actually know what we're talking about. Because you'd be surprised that you'd be surprised at how many people get on and some of the things that they say. You like, okay,
Yeah,
I'll let you have that, but okay. So it's a blessing to actually be on with someone who actually knows exactly what they're talking about. It's a blessing always. So tell me something, Dr. Brian, please give us something motivational as we're getting close to our time.
absolutely. When here's what I want you to know is you can do it. Whatever it is that you're trying to plan to do, you have the ability to do it. If you're willing to put in the work, you're willing to be consistent while you do the work, and you're willing to follow some of those visions and those dreams. It's you've been given. I would say, there might be some people that might not be able to do the thing because of maybe mental capacity, or they I can't ride a bike because I don't have any legs, but they have legs that can be put on, right? So there's hardly anything that you can't do if you're willing to do. And what I would say is you need to find people, you need to find people that can be in your corner and that you can tell your dream to, that you can articulate it to, that you can say, if I do these things, then this is what's going to happen. And when you think about success leaving clues, find somebody who's doing the thing that you want to do.
Mhm.
Find somebody who's doing the thing that you want to do. Find out exactly what they did to do it. Figure out how to friend them and then move forward because there's absolutely nothing that can stop you. And today you got to make that decision to be able to do it because it's all about the decisions we make. The decisions that we make on Monday, the decisions we make on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. When you get up in the morning, what decisions are you making to make your day better than the day that was before? And
Yes.
lastly, I would say you need to serve others. God put us on this earth to be able to serve others and please Him. That's what He said. This is Solomon's prayer. My prayer every single day is, "Good Lord, give me the wisdom to do the things that please You and serve others on a daily basis." And if you do that, you get up and do that every day, you're going to be successful beyond measure because
Right.
there's nothing that's stopping you. I don't care what systems out there. I don't care what people are out there. I don't care what barriers that you have. And here's what I said: call me, call you, Yellow Yubby. You can do this if you find people
Yes.
that can
Yes.
walk you through. Don't try to do this by yourself. That you know, if they say a leader that has no followers is only taking a walk. So stop taking a walk, right, and find some people that are in your corner. And if the people that are part of your corner aren't helping you move forward, find some new friends. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
telling you this is Thanksgiving week, right? You got to be around your family. Your family's your family. You got to love them. You just don't have to hang with them 365 days a year,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
They're
That's
your
it.
family. Love on them like you never did before. Don't say nothing negative this week. Just encourage them.
Yeah.
Don't forget about telling them what you're getting ready to do. Just encourage them in whatever they say they're going to do and
Mhm.
be there for
Yeah.
them.
And let me add one more thing to that.
Please.
Keep a positive mindset, irregardless of what you've been through your entire life. Change your mindset to where your mindset is focused on your success, your goals. Notice I say your success, your goals, because it's not everybody else's, it's yours. And you have to take charge of that.
Got this. I promise you do.
I
Yes.
really got
And
it.
you have it.
So, Dr. Brian, tell us where we can actually reach you.
Absolutely. So my website is brianearnold.com, BrianeArnold.com. If you go to there, everything that I do is on that website. So it will get you there. Um, no matter what it is, even if you just want to have a conversation, love to have a conversation with you. You can contact me there. My phone number's on there. My website, my email's on there. Everything, BrianeArnold.com. It is there. Please utilize it. Please realize that you are God's greatest gift. You are God's greatest gift, and He loves you if you allow Him to. And let Him help you get to where you want to be. You got this.
And even for those who don't have a particular belief, you feel like you're just spiritual, take on whomever or whatever your belief is, reach that highest point in your belief and ask for whatever it is that you need so that you can get to stepping in the direction that you need to step in.
Yep. Energy, whatever it is,
Just saying.
something bigger than you on this planet. I promise you
Yes, indeed.
that. There it is.
So I tell you, Dr. Brian, thank you so much for being on YTP Entertainment. This has been a blessing, man. This was fun. This was actually really, really cool, bro. No doubt.
I
And
appreciate
we'll
it.
be
Yes.
following on social media, so be looking for it. I'll
All
definitely
right.
be.
Love it. Yes, and I can't wait to follow you more. And we're going to do this again, folks. So he's going to come on my podcast, and we're going to get another hour in. So it's going to be good.
You all be ready. December the
Yeah.
5th, be ready. Make sure you are ready so I can definitely come on Dr. Brian's podcast and let me help make a difference with his audience just as he has done with mine.
Obviously. Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
so
me on. It's been
It was a
awesome.
blessing, man. Thank you so much. I definitely look forward to seeing you on the field. Peace and blessings to you, my brother. Many blessings and many, many, many more. Have a great night, man.
Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.